Okay, so what if you found a notebook that could literally write the future? Sounds like an amazing power, right? But what if that notebook started writing a future you never asked for? Let's dive into this really terrifying story about a man who finds out that some pages are much, much better left blank. So this is where our story kicks off, in one of those forgotten alleys, The kind that smells damp and the light just doesn't seem to reach. And it's here, among piles of old books, that a young man named Karim is about to find something that will totally seal his fate. The whole atmosphere, right from the start, it just feels like a warning. And this is the object. At first glance, it really doesn't look like much. Just a simple notebook, dark red cover, no title, nothing special. But there's something about it. Maybe the strange little cracks along the spine that just calls out to him. He buys it for next to nothing from this old bookseller who shoots him this weirdly knowing smile. It's one of those tiny moments that, ends up changing everything.
All right, so Kareem gets the notebook home. He's curious, but he's also a little skeptical, right? So he decides, okay, let's run a little experiment. Let's see if this thing is for real. And this is really the moment where that line between simple curiosity and a dangerous obsession starts to get really blurry. For his first test, he writes something really simple, almost kind of silly. It's a harmless little test of fate. Tomorrow, I will find a red rose on the doorstep. It's just a whimsical thought, a totally safe way to see what this notebook can do without any real risk involved. Or, so he thinks. And sure enough, the next morning, there it is. A rose, right on his doorstep, just like he wrote. But here's the thing. It's not perfect. It's stained with these dark red drops that look just like blood. This is our very first sign, our first big red flag, that anything this notebook makes true comes with a dark, twisted price hitting in the fine print. Now, even though he's a bit freaked out, he's also fascinated. He just can't resist the pull of that power, the idea of being in control. And this is that classic moment in a horror story, isn't it? The main character sees all the warning signs, but he's just too captivated to turn back now. So a pattern starts to form. He writes something like, tomorrow I'll get a call from a stranger, and boom, it happens. But it's not just a wrong number. It's this chilling, creepy voice on the other end, whispering things he can't even understand. The notebook always delivers on the wish, but it finds a way to corrupt it, to make it unsettling every single time. Power, as it turns out, has a pretty terrible sense of humor. But the price he's paying isn't just psychological. Something is happening to Kareem himself, to his body. Every time a prophecy comes true, he feels this deep, crushing exhaustion, like he's just been drained. It becomes clear the notebook isn't just a tool, it's more like a parasite, and he's the host. See, up to this point, he thinks he's the one calling the shots, the one writing the future. But this question right here, this is the turning point. What happens when the pen is no longer really in his hand? And this is the exact moment the story flips from being kind of spooky to being genuinely terrifying. The whole power dynamic just completely flips on its head, and Kareem is about to realize he was never, ever in control. He writes this sentence, but he doesn't even mean to. It's almost like a slip of the pen, or maybe the notebook itself is starting to guide his hand. The next day, he hears sirens, screaming. That careless thought has become a deadly reality. And just like that, the illusion that he's in charge is completely shattered. And then, the absolute ultimate horror. He tries to rip the page out, but the words just reappear. Later, he opens the notebook, and there are new sentences. Sentences written in ink he recognizes, but it's not his handwriting. He's not the author anymore. Now, he's just the terrified reader of his own awful future. The predictions get different. They're not about random events anymore. Oh no. Now they're personal, they're cruel, and they are aimed directly at him. The notebook has turned into this instrument of slow, meticulous torture, just promising him a future filled with pain and loss, one dreadful day at a time. So at this point, any of us would be trying to get rid of this thing, right? And Kareem does. He gets desperate. But as we're about to see, this is no ordinary notebook. It doesn't really care about the laws of our world. I mean, he tries everything. He chucks it into the Nile River only to come home and find it sitting on his desk, perfectly dry. He tries to light it on fire. The pages won't even catch a flame. He buries it deep in the ground and wakes up the next morning to find it lying on his chest. There's just no escape. This thing is a curse, and it is permanently attached to him. And you can see it happening to him physically.
He's literally starting to become one with the notebook. His skin gets this sickly, pale color, just like the paper, as his body just withers away. The metaphor is just so clear and so horrifying. The notebook is consuming his life, writing his end by basically unwriting him. So in one final, desperate attempt to reclaim some shred of free will, he picks up the pen. He tries to fight back with the simplest command he can think of. He just wants one day of peace, a blank page in his own life. He writes, "Tomorrow, nothing will happen." It's just a plea for a little silence. But the notebook is crueler than he could ever have imagined. It actually grants his wish for nothing to happen in the real world by tormenting him in his sleep. He's thrown into this horrible cycle of nightmares, forced to watch himself die over and over and over. Even his one act of defiance gets twisted into a new kind of torture. And that brings us to the final night. Kareem is he's broken. A total shell of a man, just sitting there waiting for the notebook to hand down its final sentence. He's sitting in front of the open book, and he watches as ink starts to just bleed out of the page itself. It forms a single, terrifying word that just hangs there, unfinished. Tomorrow. It's both a promise and a threat, holding all the horror of the unknown in those three little dots. And just when he thinks it's over, he hears something, a sound that should be completely impossible. From the other side of the wall, he hears the distinct scratching of a pen on paper, continuing the sentence that was left unfinished. The story isn't over, and the author, well, it isn't the notebook. It's something else, something in the walls, and it is still writing. And that's where the story leaves us, with this chilling, unanswerable question. After everything, after being unwritten and rewritten by this horrible force, what part of his future, if any, is actually his anymore? It's just a terrifying thought about fate, free will, and the stories that end up writing us.